No, go ahead.
Okay, so basically there are four major hypotheses, and they're laid out mainly by, I pulled this from this information mainly from Joachim Jeremias, who's done what I would consider like the definitive rock work on, I shouldn't say that. It's not definitive. He's written a book that everybody references. It's kind of the go-to. And it's called Jesus and the Last Supper. And then also Dr. Petrie's book, which I just told you about. So number one, Joachim Jeremias cites three main scholarly views that are taken in terms of the chronology. Number one is the Johannine hypothesis. And that is that John's account is correct, and Yeshua and his disciples were not eating a Passover meal. So I'll kind of dive into this a little bit. The way that this works, as most of our listeners probably already understand, the Passover meal was, the lamb was supposed to be slaughtered on the 14th of Nisan, right? So it's slaughtered, the blood is thrown on the altar, the carcass is dressed, and then given back to the sacrificer. Because of the numbers that came into Jerusalem during the Passover festival, they would then take that out of the temple, they would roast it on their own fire somewhere, and then they'd eat it. So they would sacrifice the animals from 12:30 until about 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening on the 14th of Nisan. And then the 15th of Nisan, as soon as the sun set on that night, it became the 15th of Nisan. The 15th is the festival Sabbath. Okay? And so in John, here, let's turn to one of the passages. This is why people would say that John is correct. John 18:28, for instance.
Well, wait a minute. Can I just interrupt there?
Yes, of course.
When you talk about that John is correct, you're not suggesting that John is at odds with the synoptics. What you're saying is that there are people out there that pit John's chronology as different than the synoptics.
Okay, well,
right?
There's multiple thoughts on this. Number one, there are scholars who say that there's two traditions, which means one is wrong and one is right, and so they'll take John's account as being right because they say that he was a first-hand witness. There are other scholars who say, no, the Word of God is inerrant, and therefore everything's right. However, something else is going on in the synoptics. They're later, so they're using different terminology or something, and they don't really know how to deal with it. And then there's other scholars and then there's people like so predominantly in the Hebrew roots and Messianic movements, you have people holding to the Johannine chronology. And the way that people like Zach Bauer I'm not really sure how Lex tries to deal with it. And I know that he's still studying, Lex Myers. I know he's still studying this as well. But for instance, Zach Bauer, the way that he deals with John being correct, and basically what they're saying is that Yeshua and his disciples ate the Last Supper on Nisan 13, and that it wasn't a Passover meal. There was no Passover lamb. It was just a love meal. And basically Yeshua is saying goodbye because he's about to die. And so then they celebrate that meal. Night falls. It becomes the 14th of Nisan, the day that the Passover lambs are sacrificed. And then you have passages like this in John 18:28 that says, "Then they led Yeshua from the house of Caiaphas to the governor's headquarters. It was early morning." This would be, according to this hypothesis, would be on the 14th of Nisan. "They themselves did not enter the governor's headquarters or the praetorium so that they would not become defiled, but could eat the Passover." So because of passages like this, they are saying, okay, well, this places this event on Nisan 14, which means that they ate their meal on the 13th.